Upward growth curve with resources generally and oil and gas, to be more specific, having played an important role in this very specific growth we're talking about. Now, it is therefore not surprising that investors are optimistic about the potential for growth in the African oil and gas sector. But with rising global energy demand, the oil and gas industry has a wide range of challenges and opportunities across the upstream, midstream, downstream, as well as oilfield services sectors. But to take us through those challenges and as well as opportunities, we're now joined in studio by Mireille Toulekima, the Subsurface Team Leader for Sasol Exploration and Production International, and she provides this leadership role on their gas assets in Mozambique. Welcome, Mireille. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
It's a pleasure.
Now, we'd like to talk about, the oil and gas industry in South Africa and Africa as a whole. But before we get into challenges that are experienced in this sector, take us through the important role that this energy sector plays in the country and the continent.
I think if you look at the oil and gas industry in Africa particularly, there's been a real growth in the recent years, especially in this region, the Southern Africa region and East Africa region, with massive gas discovery in Mozambique, Tanzania, and oil discovery in Uganda, Kenya. So the industry is definitely growing. But what the key challenge right now is that the oil price is very low. So it's actually eating some of the key exporter in the region. And that's where the key challenge is. But I think the African continent is still positioning itself as a potential power house. Yeah. And that's really where we should focus on. I mean, the low oil price, it's not going to be permanent. There's a period that we really going to struggle a little bit, but I foresee it growing a little bit more. I mean, in terms of participation, worldwide participation, as far as the African continent is concerned, Africa actually provide 11 to 12% of the oil demand and about 7% of the gas demand, and it's going to grow with Mozambique gas coming in the market and the gas in Tanzania as well. So that's the way I see the growth. For the time being, we're sitting as an African continent as 10% of the proved reserve, but obviously with Mozambique, Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, and all the eastern part of Africa, it's going to be a game changer.
Now, with the challenges that you've also mentioned that the sector is currently experiencing with the prices, hiking and going down, or however the curve is, are investors still excited about investing in, African oil and gas, regardless of the challenges faced?
I think there's been a slowdown, a little bit of panic, because we've been very lucky to have this oil price being above $100 for quite a long time, 5 to 6 years. So it came at a shock. I think in January we were at $50, so there was a bit of panic. Some of the projects have been put on hold, and obviously the investment are also following. So but the market is actually slowly going up again. It's slow because I think what companies and investors are looking for is to see if it's stable yet, or are we going to go lower than that. But it's been going up the last few months, so I'm quite optimistic that things are going to get better.
And what strategic methods? I mean, I think it's very good to be very optimistic. But what strategic methods do you think need to be implemented to ensure that all the challenges that are faced, at least most, if not all, challenges facing the energy sector are then alleviated?
I think one thing that normally a company tends to do when something like that happens, it's to look at the workforce and start to basically decrease the workforce, especially in those areas of support. And that's where we need to really be careful, because you don't want to reach a stage when the industry comes back where you actually have a skills shortage to accelerate your development. So that's one thing to look at as well. And we should always look at how we can continue to invest, because that will help as well the market to be a little bit more confident. Obviously, you're not going to invest as much as you would in a high oil price, but we should just have this confidence to give the confidence to the market, so that we can start again to go on the growth line that we started a few years ago.
Now, another one of the challenges, and I know this one is particularly close to your heart, is the fact that there are not enough women in the energy sector. You speak very much about it. When one Googles your name, that's one of the first things that come, where you want the gender gap and the gender divide to be more balanced, and to have more women in the sector participating actively, of course, towards the economy. Why do you think there's shortage of women in the energy sector, and how do you think we can, of course, balance that gender gap?
I think there's, from the side of women, some fear as well, because, I mean, oil and gas being a men-dominated area, some women actually are not very confident to go into it. But I think what we should do is demystify this, and it's exciting and dynamic industry, and as women, I mean, I think we have the skills to compete as well. So that's one thing. But as well, there's skill shortage right now in the industry worldwide, and apart from the diversity in bringing women on board in the oil and gas industry, there's also this skill shortage gap that we want to fill if we want to continue to supply the market. So that's a key one as well, where we should tap into the pool, the women pool, and really push for it.
You spoke about a very interesting, term, the skills shortage in the industry. And when I think of young people who are applying to, be future doctors and future engineers, I wonder if enough attention is placed on the industry and the sector. So it looks attractive to young people to want to study towards. But do you think enough is done, to attract young people towards the sector so they can study more about it and, participate in it?
I think it's not really well known, and we really have to start going and inform the young generation that there are opportunities, and they should actually try to embrace some of those technical careers in the oil and gas industry, and that's something that needs still to be done and strategized and start really at a very young age, because the industry is growing in Africa, so we will need the workforce. And it has to start now, because the shortage is just going to, the gap is just going to increase. I mean, in 5-10 years, some of the most experienced technical professionals in this industry are going to retire. So if we can start already now, we will have a workforce ready to fill this gap and continue the growth of the energy in the energy sector. So that's, I think that's, I'm myself a very strong advocate of, I go really out, go to conference and really try to appeal to women to actually get involved into the industry. I mean, it's not easy. It's quite challenging, especially when you start to have a family, get married. So all this balance is really sometimes very difficult to have. But it's worth it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much to Mireille Toulekima, of course, the Subsurface Team Leader for Sasol Exploration and Production International. Of course, you provide that leadership role there as, within their gas assets in Mozambique. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.